Hello! Ang pag-aaralan natin ngayon ay ratio. Ratio is a way of comparing two or more quantities. For example, meron tayong 2 apples at 3 oranges. So, 2 apples at 3 oranges. The question is, what is the ratio of apples to oranges? So, observe the picture and let's give the answer. There are 2 apples for every 3 oranges. Merong 2 apple kada 3 oranges because we are comparing 2 quantities here. Another example is a glass of milk with 2 glasses of hot chocolate. So what is the ratio of glass of milk to the glass of hot chocolate? The answer, there is 1 glass of milk per 2 glasses of hot chocolate. Okay? So, yung naka-underline na for every at yung per na word are just some of the ways of how we can express ratio. And there are more ways we can write ratio. Padamihin pa natin yung ating example. So, paano na natin ngayon i-express ang ratio of glass of milk to the glass of hot chocolate? Tignan niyo nasa picture at ang unang hinihingi ay yung ratio ng glass of milk. First, so ilan yung nasa picture ngayon? We have 4. And yung glass of hot chocolate, we have 8. Now, we can also use the words is to indicate ratio. Meaning to say, there are 4 glasses of milk for every 8 glasses of hot chocolate. Or simply, 4:8. Now, we can consider this as a word form of expressing ratio. Another way to express ratio is using the colon form. So instead of using the words is to, papalitan lang siya ng colon. And another way, instead of using the colon form, we have the fraction form. So instead of writing 4:8 and using the colon form, we will have the fraction form. So these are the ways of how we can express ratio. So sa example naman natin ng apples and oranges, the ratio of apples to oranges in word form, ano magiging sagot? Apples muna, ilan lahat yung apples na nasa picture? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 8 apples. How many oranges? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, 8 is to 12. That's a word form. So, colon form, mawawala lang yung words na is to, papalitan ng colon symbol. And then for the fraction, we'll have 8/12. So, pinarami natin kanina yung example natin ng glasses of milk and hot chocolate. That's why we have 4/8 based on our picture. Now, what if we're asked to simplify naman the fraction into lowest term or simplest form? So 4/8, we simply have to find a number, that one number that we have to use para ma-divide si 4 at si 8. And that is the GCF. So ano ba ang greatest common factor or GCF ni 4 at 8? Ano yung isang number na yon na pinakamalaki na pwede mag-divide kay 4 at kay 8? And that is 4. So, we use 4 sa taas para ma-divide yung numerator and 4 din para ma-divide yung denominator. That means 4 is our GCF. And when we divide that, 4 divided by 4 over 8 divided by 4 will give us 1/2. Okay? So, paano naman natin maipapakita yun sa picture? Paano na mapapakita that 4/8, the simplest form is 1/2. So, kung titingnan yung picture, the ratio here is 4 glasses of milk to 8 glasses of hot chocolate. In simplest form, yung pinakamaliit na possible way na pwede natin ma-express yung ating ratio is this. 1 glass of milk to 2 glasses of hot chocolate. Right? So, that's the simplest form of 4/8. Therefore, the simplest form or lowest term of our fraction 4/8 is 1/2. From the pictures, we can see that the ratio of apples to oranges is 8 is to 12. So 8 apples is to 12 oranges. There are 8 apples for every 12 oranges. So what if we are asked to simplify that fraction into lowest term? So the given is 8 over 12. Again, we need to find the biggest number that can divide both 8 and 12, and that is 4. We call that 4 the GCF. So we divide the numerator, the numbers on top, and the denominator by the same number, which is 4. So 8 divided by 4 and 12 divided by 4 will give us 2/3. So the simplest form or the lowest term of 8 over 12 is simply 2 over 3. Now, from the given 8 is to 12 from our ratio, to simplify the picture, the ratio of 8 over 12 actually just came from 2 apples and 3 oranges. That's why we call this the simplest form. So from our example, we have the glass of milk and 2 glasses of hot chocolate. So it has the ratio of 1/2. Or we can rewrite it as 1 is to 2. So kung pararamihin natin, gawin natin siyang 4 times. So we will now have this picture, which will now have a new ratio of 4 glasses of chocolate milk, which is here, the numerator, and 8 glasses of hot chocolate. Yun yung nasa denominator. Numerator is the number on top. Denominator is the number at the bottom in fraction form. Okay? So we can rewrite that 4 over 8 in column form as 4 is to 8. So yun yung pinarami natin. So going back from our previous discussion, when we're asked naman to do the opposite, which is to simplify the fraction into lowest term. So given our answer 4 over 8, since we're going to simplify, dun tayo sa pinaka-smallest possible way of expressing our 4 over 8. So this time, instead of multiplying, we are now going to divide by 4, which is the GCF of 4 and 8, which is the greatest common factor. So this time, we divide the numerator and the denominator by 4, which is 1/2. Okay? So, ibig sabihin ng 1/2, which is 1 is to 2, kung pinarami natin siya kanina, it became 4 is to 8. Yung basic or pinaka-smallest possible unit na pinanggalingan niya is 1 glass of milk to 2 glasses of hot chocolate. Okay? Kasi marami natin siyang beses, pwedeng paramihin pa, pwedeng i-times 100 pa natin yung 1 is to 2 natin. So, lalaki yung value, pero the simplest form would still be 1/2. Kasi dito siya originally nanggaling. That's the idea of lowest term. Now, we have, again, our fraction or our ratio 1/2, which is equal to 4 over 8 when we multiply, or when simplified, 4 over 8 is equal to 1/2. We call these fractions or ratios equivalent ratios. So given the picture, what is the ratio of apples to oranges? That is 2 over 3. 2 apples for every 3 oranges. Or in column form, that is 2/3. Suppose we multiply now by 5. We want to repeat the picture 5 times. There. So what would be our new ratio? It is now 10 apples for every 15 oranges, or 10 is to 15. So doing the opposite this time, we're going to find the lowest term or the simplest form of the ratio, 10 over 15. So if we multiplied by 5 earlier, this time we're going to divide by the greatest common factor, which is 5. So the answer would become 2/3, meaning to say the smallest unit where 10 over 15 came from is from 2 apples and 3 oranges. That's the simplest form, or the smallest value, or the lowest term. In this case, our fractions 2/3 and 10 over 15 are called equivalent ratios. Equivalent ratios are ratios that make the same comparison of numbers. Ratios are equivalent if one can be expressed as a multiple of the other. So for example, we have 2 over 5 and we multiply it by 4, we're going to have 8 over 20. Still using 2 over 5 or 2 is to 5 and multiplying it by 10, we will have 20 over 50. 2 over 5 multiplied by 20, we are going to have 40 over 100. So all of these ratios that we have, 2 over 5 or 2 is to 5, 8 over 20, 20 is to 50, and 40 is to 100 are called equivalent ratios. So this time, let us continue with proportion. So proportion is a statement of equality between two ratios. So we are still dealing with ratios. For example, we have 2 is to 5. And then we have another ratio that is 8 is to 20. So proportion is a statement of equality between two ratios. So we now have two ratios here. We have to see if they are equal for them to be considered a proportion. So the innermost numbers, 5 and 8, are considered the means, and the outermost numbers are the extremes. So to simply identify if the given ratios is a proportion, we just multiply the means and the extremes. So the product for the means, 5 times 8 is 40, and the product of the extremes is also 40. Is this a proportion or not? Well, from the definition, they should be equal. The value of the means is equal to the value of the extremes. Therefore, 2 is to 5 and 8 is to 20 is a proportion. Remember that aside from column form, in writing ratio, we can also express it in fraction form. So 2 is to 5 is now written as 2 over 5. Same with 8 is to 20, could also be expressed as 8 over 20. So we can also identify if these two ratios are proportion. So our means is the 5 and 8, and our extremes is 2 and 20. We simply cross multiply. So 2 times 20 and 5 times 8, we're looking for the same product. It should have the same value. In this case, we have the means of 40 and the extremes value of 40. Therefore, we have a proportion because the values are equal. Okay, let's try more examples about proportion. So which of the following ratios show proportion? The first one, we have 3 over 4 equals 1 half. So we simply cross multiply 3 and 2, that will give us 6. And then multiply 4 and 1, that would give us 4. The second example, 1 is to 3 equals 4 is to 12. Multiply the means or the innermost number, that would give us 12. And the extremes, the outermost number, will give us also 12. And the third one, 15 times 3 is 45, and 9 times 5 is 45. Now, given all the answers, which among the ratios show proportion? So, going back with our first example, we have an answer of 4 and 6. They are not equal. Remember, for it to be a proportion, we need to have the same product. The product of the means should be equal to the product of the extremes. So here, we can see that 4 is not equal to 6. Therefore, the ratios are not proportion with each other. So this is not an example of a proportion. However, our second and third example obviously shows the same product. We have 12 and 12, 45 and 45. Okay? So these two ratios are examples of proportion. This time, we're going to solve for a missing value in a proportion. So given this, we need to find the value here. So before we start, we're going to replace that missing value or the unknown with a letter. Let's just use N. Now, whenever we replace a missing or an unknown with a letter, we call this a variable. So that means we are using the variable N to replace a missing value. And then we're going to proceed as usual on how we solve our proportion earlier. That's by cross multiplication. So how do we multiply a number and a variable? We just write them together. 4 times n is simply 4n. And then multiply 1 and 12, we're going to have 12. Now, the next step would be to use whatever is the number beside your variable. We're going to use that to divide both sides of your equation. So in this case, the number beside our variable n is 4. So we will divide everything by 4. Now, 4 divided by 4 is just 1. Then we're going to copy our variable n. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now remember that whenever your variable has a number 1 beside it, you don't have to write it anymore. So you just simply write the variable n and then copy your answer. So our n is equal to 3. Now how are we going to know if our answer is correct? So let's go back with our problem. 1 is to 4 equals n is to 12. Now remember, we're able to solve the value of n. Our answer from our solution is 3. So we are going to replace this n by our answer 3. Now we have to check if our answer is correct. We apply our usual solution, which is cross multiplication. 1 times 12 is 12. And then 4 times 3 is also 12. So you can see the products are equal, meaning to say our ratios are proportional with each other. So what if the given ratio is written in column form? So we're going to use our same example. 1 over 4 equals n over 12, but we're going to use the column form. So we also have to get our extremes and means. So means, the product is 4n, the extremes, 1 times 12, the product is 12. And then you rewrite it into an equation. So 4n is equal to 12, just like our previous solution. And then you solve just like what we did with our previous example. So remember, the number beside n is 4, so we divide everything by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Copy our n and then divide the right side. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And since 1 is a number beside n, we call it the numerical coefficient is 1. Then all we have to do is to just write the variable n and then copy our final answer. So there we go. Whether the given is in fraction form or in column form, we would still be able to find the missing value in a proportion. Let's have another example of solving for the missing value. Given 27 over 45 equals 9 over n. So the missing part now is in the denominator. Just cross multiply. 27 times n is 27n. And 9 times 45 is 405. Then remember, whatever is the number written beside your variable, that's 27 here, you're going to use that to divide both sides of your equation. And 27 divided by 27 is 1, and then copy your variable n. So we are going to have 1n, but we're simply going to write n. And then divide 405 and 27, the answer is 15. So if the format given is in column form, 27 over 45 is now 27 is to 45 equals 9 is to n. We're still going to use our means and extremes. So get the means and the extremes. So 45 times 9 is 405. The extremes, the product is 27n. And then just equate the answer. So 27n equals 405. Divide everything by 27. So n is equal to 15. So how are we going to know if our answer is correct? So given the problem, let's just use the written form of fraction. So 27 over 45 equals 9 over n. We're able to solve for the value of n, and that is 15. So we're going to remove n in the problem and replace it with our answer 15. And then do the cross multiplication. 27 times 15 is 405. 45 times 9 is also 405. Now we have a proportion. Now we have 35 over n equals 10 is to 8. So cross multiply. 10 times n is 10n. And 35 times 8 is 280. Using 10 to divide both sides of the equation. So we're going to have 10 divided by 10 is 1. And then copy n. So 1n, or we simply write n, and 280 divided by 10 is 28. Now, if the given is in column form, that would be 35 is to n equals 10 is to 8. We simply get the products of the means and the products of the extreme. So 10n and 280 equate, just like how we solved in the previous solution, dividing both sides by 10, our n is 28. So to know if our answer is correct, given our problem 35 over n equals 10 over 8, replace the variable n with our answer 28. And then do the cross multiplication. 35 times 8 is 280, and 28 times 10 is 280. Now, since our products are equal, that means our ratios are proportional with each other. Another example, n over 16 equals 2 over 8. So cross multiply n times 8, that's equal to 8n. And 16 times 2 is equal to 32. And we are going to divide both sides by 8 because that is the number written beside your variable. We call it numerical coefficient. The number written beside the variable is the numerical coefficient. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. Then we're going to copy n. So we're going to have 1n. But since the coefficient or the numerical coefficient is 1, we're just going to write the variable n. And 32 divided by 8 is 4. So if the given is written in column form, the same solution, we're going to get the value or the product of our means. 16 times 2 is 32. And the product of our extremes, n times 8 is 8n. And then equate. 8n equals 32 and solve for n. Okay, so n, we're going to have the same answer of 4. So to check if our answer is correct, our given problem is n over 16 equals 2 over 8. We're able to solve for the value of n. So we're going to remove that unknown anymore because we're able to solve for the answer, which is 4. And then let's do the cross multiplication. 4 times 8 is 32. 16 times 2 is 32. Now, since our answers are equal, we have a proportion. Let us apply what we have learned in ratio and proportion with word problems. The ratio of roses to chocolates in a gift is 1 is to 6. If there are 4 roses, how many chocolates should there be? So the given ratio here is roses to chocolates. So we're going to follow the ratio of roses to chocolates. And it says here 1 is to 6. What does 1 is to 6 mean? It means 1 rose to 6 chocolates. So that is the given ratio. So 1 rose to 6 chocolates. And then the question is if there are 4 roses. So 4 roses, we know that there are 4 roses. The question is how many chocolates should there be? That is the question. So we're going to use the variable n. So we proceed with cross multiplication. 1 times n is 1n. But since our numerical coefficient is 1, we can simply just write n. And then 6 times 4, that is 24. So what does 24 mean as an answer? 24 means the number of chocolates because that is what we are solving for. So 24 chocolates. So to say the answer, there should be 24 chocolates if there are 4 roses. Now, to verify if the answer is correct, copy your problem and we're going to substitute or replace the variable n with our answer, which is 24. So bye-bye n and say hello to our answer 24. And then we apply cross multiplication. 6 times 4 is 24 and 1 times 4 is also 24. Since we have the same product, that means our ratios are proportional with each other. Therefore, our answer 24 is correct. Now, to take a look at the picture, that means for every rose, we have to pair it with 6 chocolates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it says here, if there are 4 roses, So we have to make 4 roses. How many chocolates should there be? So every rose should be paired with 6 chocolates. So let's pair them up. And if you count the number of chocolates here, we are going to have 24, which is our answer. Another example. A cake recipe needs 2 eggs for every 3 cups of flour. Question number 1. How many eggs are needed if there are 9 cups of flour? Question number 2. How many cakes can the ratio of eggs to flour make from question number 1? So given the statement, the ratio is eggs for every cups of flour. So eggs for every cups of flour. So how many eggs given? 2 eggs for every 3 cups of flour. That's the given ratio. And for question number 1 says how many eggs? So the number of eggs is unknown. Let's use the variable n. How many eggs are needed if there are 9 cups of flour? So we do not know how many eggs we need, but we do know that we have 9 cups of flour. There. And so we proceed with cross multiplication. 3 times n is 3n, and 2 times 9 is 18. Since we have number 3, the numerical coefficient, written beside n, we're going to use that to divide both sides of the equation. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. Copy the variable n, so we have 1n, or we simply write n. And 18 divided by 3 is 6. So what does 6 mean as an answer? 6 is the number of eggs. So to answer question number 1, how many eggs are needed if there are 9 cups of flour? The answer is 6 eggs are needed if there are 9 cups of flour. Now to verify if our answer is correct, copy the problem. We say goodbye to the variable n because we already have our answer, which is 6. And we do cross multiplication. 2 times 9 is 18, and 6 times 3 is also 18. So we have the same product. That means our ratios are proportional with each other. Therefore, our answer is correct. Now, going back with the given, we need 2 eggs for every 3 cups of flour, right? And in question number 1, how many eggs are needed if there are 9 cups of flour? So we have 9 cups of flour. We're going to make these cups of flour into 9. And for every 3 cups of flour, we have to pair it with 2 eggs. So this is our picture. And this pair of eggs into flour will make 1 cake. Another pair would make another cake. Another pair would make another cake. So each 2 eggs paired with 3 cups of flour will make 1 cake. So to answer number 2, how many cakes can the ratio of eggs to flour make from question number 1? We can make 3 cakes. If we have 6 eggs and 9 cups of flour, we can make 3 cakes. That's all for today. Thank you and ingat.